Chris was born in Grand Rapids, Michigan on June 18, 1949, the second child of Doris Christensen van Allsburg and Richard van Allsburg. His older sister Karen was born in 1947. The Van Allsburg family moved several times around the city of Grand Rapids. One of his streets growing up even looked like the street on the cover of the Polar Express. Chris went to junior and senior high school in East Grand Rapids. He didn't take art classes during the time. His interests and talents were in the area of math and science. Because of the high level of academic achievement at East Grand Rapids High School, and because each year a number of students chose to go to the University of Michigan, they sent an admissions officer to Chris's high school. The admissions officer would interview students and admit them on the spot if their grades and test scores satisfied the school's requirements. Chris remembers that interview as a fateful day in determining what would become his career.
I entered an office and handed the admissions man my form. He looked it over and noticed that I had not chosen a college within the university. I asked to see the form and noticed a listing for College of A&D. I asked the man what that was. He explained that was the College of Architecture and Design, which included the art school. It had never crossed my mind that someone could go to college and make art. I hadn't taken any art classes yet, but I liked to draw, and it occurred to me that studying art could be a lot of fun. I told the admissions officer that art sounded very interesting. Perhaps I'd give that a try. This was the last year that the university admitted art students without a portfolio, which meant that the admissions officer could simply admit me if he was satisfied with my test scores and high school transcript. Unfortunately, my transcript showed that I had not taken art in the last 4 years. The admissions man said I was not qualified to enter the school. So, I told the admissions man that because my artistic skills were so advanced, I had studied art privately on Saturdays, rather than take high school classes. I told him I had been studying privately for some years and was currently doing oil painting. None of this was true. He seemed to be impressed, but not entirely convinced. He asked me what I thought of Norman Rockwell. I knew some people didn't like Norman Rockwell, a famous painter and illustrator who did magazine covers. I guessed that he was probably a fan of Mr. Rockwell, so I told him something like, I believe Norman Rockwell is unfairly criticized for being sentimental. I think he is a wonderful painter who captures America's longings, America's dreams, and presents American life with the drama and sensitivity of a great playwright. The admissions man pounded his fist on the table and said, Boy, you're absolutely right. He signed my papers, and I became, that day, an official art student.
Chris went to the University of Michigan in the fall of 1967. He fell in love with art and discovered sculpting, a place where he could use the skills and craftsmanship he developed as a boy, building model cars and boats. He majored in sculpture at University of Michigan, graduated in 1972, and went to graduate school at the Rhode Island School of Design to continue his study of sculpture. In 1975, after earning his MFA degree at RISD, Chris set up a sculpture studio in Providence, Rhode Island. He also married Lisa Morrison, whom he had met at the University of Michigan 4 years earlier. Lisa was also an art student who had studied education and had become an elementary school art teacher in Providence school system. Chris first exhibited his sculpture in New York City in 1977 at the Allenstone Gallery. He exhibited elsewhere in New England, and though sculpture was his primary interest, he had begun drawing pictures at night in a little room in his and Lisa's apartment. He did not think of these drawings as very important, but others did. Alan Stone showed them to a curator from the Whitney Museum of Art, where they were exhibited in 1978. Lisa, who used picture books when teaching her third-grade students, encouraged Chris to consider making illustrations for a storybook. A friend of Lisa's, illustrator and author David Macaulay, agreed with Lisa that the kind of pictures Chris was making could be effective book illustrations. Macaulay encouraged Lisa to show Chris's work to his editor, Walter Lorraine, at Houghton Mifflin Company in Boston. Mr. Lorraine responded positively to the pictures Lisa showed him, but rather than enlist Chris to produce pictures for someone else's story, Mr. Lorraine encouraged Chris to think about stories of his own. Though still involved in making sculptures, Chris set aside some time and created the stories and pictures that became The Garden of Abdul Ghazazi, published in 1979. Since then, Chris has written and illustrated 15 books and has illustrated 3 others that were written by Mark Halperin. In 1980, he was awarded the Caldecott Honor Medal for The Garden of Abdul Ghazazi. Chris is also the winner of 2 Caldecott medals for Jumanji and The Polar Express, and was the recipient of the Boston Globe Horn Book Award for The Garden of Abdul Ghazazi. Additionally, he received the Boston Globe honor for The Polar Express, as well as The Mysteries of Harris Burdick. Van Allsburg has also been awarded the Regina Medal for Lifetime Achievement in Children's Literature. In 1982, Jumanji won the National Book Award, and in 1996, it was made into a popular feature film starring Robin Williams. Chris co-produced this movie. As some of you may know, The Polar Express, featuring Tom Hanks, and Zathura, featuring Kristen Stewart, were hits when they reached the big screen. Some of you don't know that Chris assisted in visual development for The Little Mermaid in 1989. When he's not speaking on talk shows or at schools and universities, he lives in Providence, Rhode Island with Lisa and their daughters Sophia and Anna.